Welcome back to the Q-Cast. My name is Nick. Today we are talking about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5, The Bells. Now, I'm going to say at the top of the show, I actually like the episode, so if you've got a problem with that, you can go, well, I'm not telling you how to think. If you didn't like the episode, I can understand. I don't agree with you, but I can understand. Because they did. They went in some directions that I can see why some fans were upset with, but for the most part, I don't mind. I didn't really mind that they went the direction they did. I actually didn't mind the misdirect in some areas. It actually didn't bother me at all. I actually really enjoyed this episode on a lot of levels. In some ways, there was a lot of catharsis. Is that the word? There was a lot of somber moments, a lot of sobering moments, actually, is probably the better word. A lot of sobering moments for me personally that I really actually enjoyed watching. And I know a lot of people have been saying on Twitter and a few other places that, and Facebook as well, there's not much character. They just threw all the character development out the window. I don't agree with that. I actually think that everything that's happened up to this point seems about right. I actually don't think, and we'll get into that. I mean, let's just sort of go into some of the highlights I thought about the episodes, which I thought were just great. We got it, guys. We got Clegane Bowl. I mean, we were waiting for this for a really long time. In fact, I dare say, and I was telling this to a mate of mine at work, if we didn't get Clegane Bowl, there was going to be a riot. So right off the top of the bat, we got that. We got it. We finally saw it. The Hound runs into the Red Keep. He fights off his bro. And I love that dude who was like, hey, listen to your creator. And he just smacks him down, he knows he can destroy this dude. Clegane Bowl is the most important thing. I mean, Cersei walking by going, "Ooh, don't mind me. I'm not here, just walking by, don't mind me." As the Mountain and the Hound fight. It was a killer scene. But let's backtrack just a little bit here. The scene right before, which I really loved, and this is some of the stuff that take it or leave it. There are some great moments in this episode. One being is when obviously Arya and the Hound, or Arya and now Sandor. Well, he was always Sandor, but you know what I'm saying. Arya and the Hound walk up. They're in the Red Keep. They're gonna go dispatch Cersei and the Mountain. And the Hound kind of turns around and says, "Look, I don't want you to come with me. You come with me, you're guaranteed to die. And I don't want that happen. I don't want that to happen to you." I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's essentially what he's saying. He loves this girl. He cares about this girl, and you see his little send-off, and he says to her, "Look, don't be like me. You've seen what being hell-bent on revenge can do to you. Don't do it. It just makes you miserable." And he's been parroting that through the whole series, and I thought that was a nice arc because he was basically saying, you've got a chance to be better than me. Be better than me. And he cares about her like a daughter and kind of just says, if you know what's good for you, just leave. And he does it in a loving way. And Arya knows that. And Arya calls him Sandor, which is his real name. And it's such a sweet moment. I mean, how can you not love that scene? It's such a great moment amidst the horribleness that's happening. And man, did they go dark in this episode. Woo! I mean, there have been dark episodes, but this, all I can say is Dracarys. My gosh, and 90% of this episode was just Dracarys. I mean, she must have been yelling that all the way from the wall, all the way. I mean, everybody just got burnt to a crisp. It was like a barbecue in King's Landing. Oh my gosh, everybody just died. But anyway, we're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves. So look, I love that scene. I also loved the ending of Cersei and Jaime. And admittedly, I didn't think Jaime was going to run back to Cersei. I didn't think he was going to go out that way, but I didn't mind it. I actually thought, it's kind of a sweet, bitter ending for the two of them. And they knew they were both facing their imminent death. And I guess Jaime felt like he's so connected to his sister, obviously, really connected to her, but obviously they're in love as well. And so he wanted to end it with her. And in some ways, yeah, Cersei is Jaime's addiction. And he couldn't let go of it. It's a shame though, because Jaime is a good character, but I guess maybe that was the way his way of saving Cersei was to be there for her at the end. And help her focus on the fact that he didn't want her to be alone when she died. That's what I kind of took from it. I mean, I get some of the people being upset that he basically ditched Brienne and just came to Cersei, but in reality, I guess he was never going to get that clean break with Brienne, I guess, and that's kind of the tragedy of the Lannisters in general. But the tragedy of Cersei and Jaime is that they were never ever going to find a happy ending. I mean, it was, even if they somehow got away from from King's Landing and managed to get on the boat and get on, it was just never going to be a happy ending for them. And the tragic lovers ending was, I think, the right ending for them. It's true, I guess, people were wanting to see blood for Cersei, but I don't think it needed to be that way. And that's maybe that's just me. I actually genuinely was like, okay, I'm okay with this. I didn't need to see Arya. It would have made less sense for me if Arya had come and knifed Cersei, even though I think everybody wanted to see that. But from a story point of view and where they were kind of going with it, even before the season started, it made less and less sense that Arya would, story-wise, would actually kill Cersei. I actually thought all the time it had to be Jaime, but I only thought it was going to be Jaime who was going to kill Cersei if she became like the Mad Queen. But I guess in a lot of ways, what they kind of painted her was less of a Mad Queen and more just a person who is just a survivalist. Is that a word, survivalist? A survivor. She was basically trying to keep everything that she had, which is basically her game plan from the very beginning, was that she didn't want Ned becoming the king because she was trying to keep the power in her own family, which is essentially what she was doing when she appointed Joffrey as the king. And I guess Jaime was right, or was it Jaime or Tyrion was right? Tyrion was right, is that she did it all for her own family. And that is essentially, for good or for bad, what her motivation was for the whole episode. And in this episode too, it was like she didn't want to help, I guess, Daenerys and all those kind of guys she wanted them out of the picture. She wanted to make sure she was the only one sitting on the Iron Throne, which is why she kind of backstabbed Dany and Jon. And so, for good or for bad, she's a survivor. And so that's why she kind of did what she did. And I think a bloody ending for her would have been, I suppose, justified. We might have wanted to see her getting hung and quartered, but she has gone through her own fair share. I mean, come on, do you remember that episode where she has to do the walk of shame through the streets, and she got humiliated, and that really brought out the beast in her. So, look, I liked it. I'm going to put it out there. I liked that ending with Jaime and Cersei. I actually thought it was a great ending, despite how some people felt about what happened in that scene. There were other great moments. Varys obviously getting his untimely end. I actually thought, I was kind of hoping he would survive, but I also kind of get his time was kind of up. Maybe you might have felt the same way that Littlefinger got dispatched was a little bit too easy, but Varys kind of getting the fire breath on him for basically leaking the fact that he's trying to usurp Dany, trying to get Jon Snow installed. And interesting little side note, he was obviously writing these notes at the very beginning of the episode, we don't know who he sent them to. And he does tell the girl that without great risk, can be no great reward. Implying, obviously, that he's trying to get the news out there that Dany is not the rightful heir. It's actually Jon. Now, I like that just before he was about to get burned alive, that Tyrion said, like, he hopes it was worth it. And he goes, I guess we'll see. And he goes, I hope that I'm wrong. But obviously, as we saw at the end of this episode, he was clearly right. And she has gone completely off the rails. Now, I get to the point of contention, I guess, is, did Dany going nuts? Was that a left turn for her character? I actually thought this was going to happen. I actually didn't think that there was any way they could have written this story unless Dany, and the final boss, if you like, that Jon Snow has to conquer, or the whole of Westeros has to conquer, is Dany, and is always the villain within that is always the most interesting one. And Dany has been on a long journey, and she feels justified in doing everything that she does. She didn't come this far to fail, and she feels, and like I said in previous episodes, she feels like there's destiny on her life. And so we are seeing Dany's ambition filled with rage and filled with destiny. Manifest destiny, if you like. I hope I used that right. To basically justify why she should kill everybody. And I mean everybody. Now, why does she kill everybody? Well, this is the thing. She's never been the benevolent leader that she claims to be. I don't think she ever has been. There have been moments of tenderness for sure. She has been the breaker of chains for sure. But she didn't have mercy per se. She has been consistently ruthless through her whole regime, even back in Meereen. She has not been a great person, and she has been through the wars. She doesn't have a lot of compassion for people who diss her, let's just say. And we see that in spades in this episode. She just does not have any patience for people who don't like her. And she took it out. She took it out on everybody in King's Landing. Even when the bells were tolled, she still said, you know what? Barbecue. Let's have a giant barbecue. Dracarys for everyone. But it's... I actually thought it was going to happen. I wouldn't say I was hoping it was going to happen, but I thought it probably should happen because this is what's going to propel the story forward. Maybe it's too convenient, but I thought it was happening. They've been putting those breadcrumbs in they've been telegraphing this change of behavior for a really, really long time. Whether you love or hate Dany, she was going to go nuts. I don't know if that's necessarily a point of contention, but she was always going to go nuts. And I think that was always that's been well telegraphed for a really, really long time. But yeah, Varys' death, I kind of thought it was going to... I didn't actually think he was going to get the death penalty. I was hoping he was going to get caught till the very end, but I guess that's obviously... Like I said, they've all been these seeds of things that have been set in motion to basically get Dany to go nuts. And she doesn't trust anybody now. I mean, the only person she has on her side is Grey Worm. And poor Grey Worm lost the only shred of humanity he ever had in Missandei. I mean, when he throws basically her bracelet or her neck thing into the fire, he's done. He's out. He's checked out. I will say there was a couple of weird things that I didn't like about the episode. One was when Dany started raining down her fire of terror on everybody. The soldiers, Grey Worm included, just went nuts. Like, they started raping and pillaging the people of King's Landing, knowing full well they're not there to do that. Now, the way maybe I'm justifying it is that perhaps some of these soldiers are not from Jon's camp, which, if they were from Jon's camp, if they are Northmen, then that disappoints me a little bit, because I thought they had a little bit more integrity than that. These are people who have a bit more integrity, but apparently not. Grey Worm and the Unsullied are just following orders. They'll follow Dany to the death. Like, they were bought by Dany, and they're gonna do anything Dany tells them to do. So I understand that part. But I was a bit disappointed with Jon's dudes. I don't quite get... Like, that one dude who got pulled up by Jon and then wanted to kill Jon for stopping him rape this poor girl. I mean, obviously Jon had to dispatch him, but it's just like, whoa. This dude has completely lost their mind. Have they just gone crazy? Is it dragon sickness? That's from The Hobbit, by the way. Is it dragon sickness, guys? Is this what is hanging out with dragons? Is that making you people go crazy? Just complete and utter destruction. It was sobering, to say the least. This whole episode was really sobering, and a lot of people dying. I mean, they really were trying to pull at the heartstrings. That poor girl, when Arya basically wakes up a couple of times. My gosh, she survived. I don't know how many times. I don't know how she managed to survive. She has some crazy plot armor on this episode. I get it. She's going to be the one to kill Dany, so we get it. Or is it going to be Jon? It's going to be Arya or Jon. I think Sansa's out for this episode. I think Sansa's done with this show, so we're not going to see her again. She's going to be Warden of the North, so we'll leave her at that. She's going to be Warden, King of the... Well, she's going to be like whatever, the Lady of the North. But Jon's going to be the one who's going to dispatch Dany at some point. Jon, Davos, and Arya, there's no coming back from this now. They know that she is just 7 shades of evil, and they got to get rid of her. But it's just... And this is the thing that I think I loved about this episode was there's always this thing. I mean, there's a classic saying that in order for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. And that's essentially what Jon has done. He's allowed evil to flourish, completely being oblivious to the fact that Dany is going off the rails and doing nothing about it. Just standing by the sidelines and saying that he's going to obey his queen. He's going to obey his queen. But he can see it. He knows it. He's not. He shouldn't be suspicious of it. And it was always brooding there, and the fact that he did nothing about it. And Varys saw it from miles away, seeing like we're not going to survive this if she's on the throne. And he's well right. Like, they're not going to survive it. Jon is probably going to go next. And same with Tyrion is definitely dead. Like, Tyrion is going to die next. Like, straight off the bat, he's going to be court-martialed in. It's like, yo, dude, you don't believe me now? You rang those bells. Time to play the piper. I'm mixing my metaphors here, but you get the idea. So, yeah, it was kind of sad. I kind of get... I mean, obviously, when I'm watching Jon, and then when Varys is confronting him on the beach at the beginning of the episode, Varys is asking him, like, you know, you are the right leader. And Jon says, I don't want it. And Varys says, that's the kind of leader we need. We need somebody who doesn't want power, who's not trying to accumulate power, who just wants to look after his people. We need that kind of person. Dany is not that kind of person. All she wants is the power. And it was frustrating because I was yelling at the TV going, Jon, what are you doing? What are you doing, Jon? You're just standing around doing nothing. And that to me was the theme of the episode, was that a well-intentioned guy who's trying to do the right thing by his people. By getting Dany to come in, it was a good move. Like, he needed Dany. He needed to make the alliance with Dany to win against the White King, the Night King. The White King, Night King. But in the end, they've unleashed another monster. And because he didn't curb that power or take his rightful place, he's basically brought destruction upon himself. Actually, now thinking about it, he couldn't. What else could he have done, really? He couldn't have usurped the power. If he killed Dany, the Unsullied would have killed him. If he didn't kill Dany properly, Dany would have come after him with the dragon. So very little happening there. Unless he's fireproof too. But we don't know yet. But yeah, man, it was tough. And Dany's obviously become the villain. There was a really great scene. Emilia Clarke acts her ass off in this episode. Everybody is acting really great in these episodes. These last few episodes are great in terms of the acting side. You may not agree with the story, but you got to admit the acting is pretty amazing. The way they did Dany when she was mourning, I guess, over the loss of her dragon and Missandei, and I guess they did the makeup really well, but she obviously looked like she's been crying for a really, really long time. There's that one scene where she's looking over the water, and it's just such a great shot. I just love that shot. It just felt all the emotion of just the fact that what she's been through, because we hadn't actually looked at her face to face. We're looking at, like, we only seen from Tyrion's point of view from behind the back, and then when we see her full face, we see that she's actually been like she's in grief. And so I really, everybody's just acting their ass off in this episode. And when Cersei is crying because she's losing everything, the horror of what's happening to her is coming to fruition. She's starting to cry. So yeah, I mean, it's not a lot to be said about this episode. A lot of this episode is just spectacle, like people just dying in the streets. My gosh, it was just tense. And then there's some great visuals. There was one visual when Arya comes up just before her horse Uber turns up, which obviously the imagery being that she's going to be the savior of King's Landing, I believe. She's going to be the knight in shining armor as she rides off. But she'll come back. She'll be getting Dany sooner or later. Won't be easy. She may have to give up her life for it, but she'll get Dany at some point. But yeah, guys, there's not a lot more to talk about this episode apart from, some great visuals, but I did like it. I did like the episode, so I'm going to give them the thumbs up for this one because I actually enjoyed it, despite what everybody said. I don't really get why people are still complaining about the show. We've seen the writing on the wall in terms of the plot being not as good since season 6. So for you to think they're going to somehow turn it around now is kind of hopeful. I mean, you're pretty naive if you think that they're somehow going to make the writing of George R. Martin's books as brilliant as they can. They are writing as good as they can. I don't think the writing is terrible. It's not Breaking Bad good, but it's not. I'm trying to think of a terrible written show. Anyway, it's not a terribly written show. It's just not as good as the first 4 seasons or 5 seasons. I can admit that, but that's what it is. I don't know why you're expecting it to be better than those seasons. If you know how those seasons were made and how they were written, why are you still upset that it's not as well written as the previous seasons? Guys, we need to get on board with this. If you don't want to watch the show, don't watch it. Just wait for the books to come out. No one's forcing you to watch this stuff. Just don't watch it. Yeah, I just have beef with a lot of people who just say hyperbole, like just use hyperbole to describe something that's really not that bad. It's like a TV show, guys. Like you need to kind of grow up a little bit here. It's like saying George Lucas like people who used to say George Lucas raped their childhood because of the prequels, or Indiana Jones somehow raped their childhood because, well, no, you're fine. Your childhood is still where it is. You're fine. You need to stop using ridiculous hyperbole and making things seem a lot worse than they are. I can give you that you didn't enjoy the episode, but they haven't ruined Game of Thrones. It's just not the same Game of Thrones as the first 5 seasons. Can we at least meet in the middle here? It's just not the same. But that's it. It's still bloody entertaining though. And like I said in the previous podcast, what do you want? What else do you need in this episode? I don't understand. If you can tell me what you want to see, maybe they'll give it to you. They're trying their best, guys. I just wish people would just ease up on these guys. Why is it suddenly everything is a fail? Everybody feels like it's so much cooler to just rag on stuff all the time. I don't rag. I mean, look, I'll call stuff out when it's great, and I'll call stuff out when it's not great. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to like crap all over somebody's creation. I don't think these guys are trying to make a bad show. All right, now I'm retreading old territory, but you get the idea. I'm just saying, like, if you didn't like, I'm sorry you didn't like the episode, but it's a TV show, guys. You don't have to watch the finale. Don't watch it. If you hate it this much, just don't watch the final episode, because I don't want to hear about you guys hating the final episode, because you know what you're going to get. It's not going to satisfy you in any way, shape, or form. Now, if UFOs landed and then took over Westeros, I might have a bit of something to say, but I think it'll be fine, guys. I think we'll be okay. At least you're not. At least you didn't get Dracarys by Dany, right? But yeah. Oh, and other news today. And I know you didn't really come to this, but I'm excited that The Orville is renewed for season 3, which is a great show. If you haven't started watching The Orville and you like Star Trek, and we're talking like Star Trek. I'm not sure about the TOS, but definitely Next Gen. If you're a fan of Next Gen, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, then you will definitely love The Orville. It is the fun. It is the fun and lighter aspects of Star Trek that is sort of put into a TV show, which was supposed to be more of a parody, but is kind of more of well, I thought it was supposed to be more like a parody of that kind of genre, like Galaxy Quest. But in reality, it's more of an homage to that kind of stuff. And it is definitely fitting the bill in terms of that Star Trek hole I have in my heart for a TV show like this, which Discovery just didn't fill. For whatever reason, Star Trek Discovery just couldn't hit the tone that I wanted. I mean, it's weird, right? Because I suppose they were modeling Star Trek Discovery off the movies, which I actually thought were quite good, despite the fact that they're not going to make them anymore, which is sad because I thought they had a great ensemble. There's always Saldana in the ensemble. It's great. Chris Pine was always good. Zachary Quinto and John Cho and Simon Pegg. Such a great cast, and I loved it. I wish they were going to make more of those movies. Unfortunately, we're not. But they were good. You know what made those movies good is they were light and they were fun. Discovery is no fun. It's not light and it's no fun. And they're trying to be fun, but they're not fun. And Orville is fun. That's why I like it. That's why I'm happy that they're being renewed. Also, another show that I'm watching, fresh off the boat, also coming back for another season, 6th season if you're watching that show. It's not for everybody, But I like it. I support it because, you know, I got to support my Asian brothers and sisters in the industry, right? I know representation doesn't really matter, blah, blah, blah. But you get what I'm saying. But yeah, so good times ahead. Anyway, guys, that is it. Game of Thrones will be back for the last episode next Monday, and that'll be my final episode. I'm going to see if I can rope somebody in to talk about this one with me. If you are interested in talking about this episode with me, well, please drop me a line. Maybe we can do this interview together, because I would like to hear someone else's thoughts besides my own, and maybe we can make up a little bit more content. Usually when I do interviews with people, it usually goes for like an hour, but I would like to talk about Game of Thrones in general, and yeah. So if you're interested, drop me a line, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.